Okay, everyone, welcome back for the afternoon session of our first webinar Wednesday. We always start right on time, right on schedule. So thank you for those who are here promptly on time. We are excited to be rolling out this new program designed for board members and also CAMs. I'm Diane Michael with Beyond the Boardroom, and I am so happy to be here with you this afternoon. My partner, who is a CAM, and I decided to create this program as we understand needs and the requirements for board members and CAMs to gain education on a variety of topics in an easy, engaging manner. I own a marketing company and have created several dozen educational events for board members and CAMs throughout the years, and decided after the state of Florida created requirements for board members in education that there was a need for regular presentations in a format that is easy to digest and to share with others. So my partner, Lindsay, who is a CAM and runs a management company of her own, have tailored this presentation and this webinar Wednesday approach with topics and times in mind for each month, and are hand selecting quality vendors who we have coined association allies. We're going to start with the fourth Wednesday of every month, and soon we will be on every Wednesday of the month. So thank you for being here. Please help us spread the word about this free education. Tell your fellow board members and CAMs. And again, just thank you so much for being here. I'm going to read to you the requirements for HOA and board members that was published by the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, the DBPR. For HOAs, directors elected or appointed after July 1st, 2024, must take an education course administered by the DBPR or a division-approved course, which will remain valid for 4 years before the director shall take another board certification course. Directors in HOAs with less than 2,500 parcels must complete at least 4 continuing education hours annually. Directors in HOAs with 2,500 parcels or more must complete at least 8 hours of continuing education annually. Condominium associations, directors elected or appointed after July 1st, 2024, must take an education course administered by the DBPR or a division-approved course, which must be at least 4 hours long and include instruction on milestone inspections, structural integrity reserve studies, elections, record keeping, financial literacy and transparency, levying of fines, and notice and meeting requirements. Existing board members will have until June 30th, 2025 to comply with this requirement, and that is sourced again from the DBPR. We are thrilled to announce that we will be providing CE courses on Webinar Wednesdays very soon. So keep reading those emails, sharing, and giving us any feedback that you have. The agenda for today, for those of you that are just joining us, we have 5 total association allies that are presenting on seasonal topics. Each has 25 to 30 minutes with a question and answer after. This is a webinar session, so feel free to shoot me directly questions at any point in the presentation, and then I can work with George at the end to answer all of your questions. Again, we have one more after George with TerraScape at 1:45. We'll have a 10-minute break in between. That one will be from AK Certified Roofing, covering tile roof maintenance, repair, and replacement considerations. So again, without further ado, thank you for being here, and let me introduce you to George with TerraScape. George was born in Louisiana, and he moved to the New Smyrna Beach area when he was only 6 months old. He created TerraScape in 2007 with a mission to build a world-class organization by creating a culture that fosters growth for landscape professionals, stimulates innovation, and as a result, delivers exceptional landscape services. Their vision is to be recognized by their clients, their team members, and experts in their experts in their industry as the best landscaping company in the market. And Another item to note is that George has his Florida Certified Horticultural Professional designation and is Florida Certified in Best Management Practices. We have so enjoyed getting to know George and working with him, and work with a number of community association managers, CAMs, who just speak his praises. And we are excited to introduce George this morning. George, welcome.
Thank you very much, Diane. Thank you all. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Today, we're going to dive into an important topic. How can you protect your waterfront property through smart landscaping? Erosion is a growing concern, but the good news is you don't have to choose between protecting your landscape and supporting nature. We're going to, over the next few minutes, explore how landscaping can be both protective and beautiful. Okay, understanding coastal and inland erosion. Erosion is a powerful natural force that affects many waterfront properties. It's caused by a combination of things, including wave action, heavy rainfall, wind, and often human activity like clearing vegetation if left If left unmanaged, erosion can, can lead to land loss, water polluting, and even damage to your property. Understanding this process is the first step to preventing it. Next, I wanted to tell you a couple of important things. Financial and structural risks. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection did a study in 2021 that shows that along the east coast of Florida, there are 220 miles of critically endangered shoreline. That's a very startling fact for those of you who are not aware of it. If you live in an oceanfront condominium, I'm certain that most of you have experienced some level of damage over the course of the last 5 years or so. Hurricane Ian in 2021 alone caused $112 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars in damages. So understanding how landscaping can help is one of the things that's very vital to this. The role of landscaping. Landscaping is one of the most effective tools that we have to combat erosion. Why? Because plants do more than just look nice. Their roots anchor the soil, and their foliage slows the impact of rain and waves. Well-planned landscaping works with the natural process to prevent runoff and stabilize the shoreline. Just as an example, a 300-foot section of mangrove can reduce the size of a wave by 66%. Very interesting fact for those of you that live in the presence of mangroves. So there are several key landscaping techniques that can be used. The first is planting native vegetation buffers. When these plants grow deep roots, they thrive with minimal care. The second is terracing. That is basically creating levels on your property so that water can be managed and slowed down across those levels. And then the final is bioswales. Sometimes there's different ways to create bioswales. They might also be called cross checks or cross banks or check banks. So you might hear those terms used interchangeably. Bioswales are designed to collect and filter stormwater before it reaches the shoreline. All of these methods are low impact and highly effective. So next, I'll show you just a quick diagram of runoff management. If you look on the right, you've got a little bit of a swale on the homeowner's lawn there created by a berm. Although that looks fairly simple in its premise, it actually does a lot more. That swale will actually trap stormwater pollutants before they head into the water. And then by creating a layer of vegetation on the outside of that berm, that vegetation can help absorb chemicals and other nutrients before it enters the water. So very important to understand that although they may look simple in their design, they're actually doing a lot more than what we think. And then the next slide is best plant choices for erosion control. I've just highlighted a few here. There's a plethora of plant and tree options available. the best plants are going to stabilize soil and absorb water. So in our dunes and coastal areas, we often think of items like sea oats, cord grasses, railroad vines, sea grapes, buttonwoods. For slopes and hillsides, muley grass and switchgrass are great examples there. And then in flood zones, bald cypress is a great option, as well as there's a variety of water tolerant shrubs that can be used. Okay, green infrastructure versus gray infrastructure. I know that says there's two options there. There's actually three, and I'm going to talk about all three approaches. Green infrastructure, gray infrastructure, and hybrid. A green infrastructure is a strategically planned network of natural and semi-natural areas, as well as other environmental features designed and managed to deliver a wide range of ecosystem services and enhance biodiversity. Gray infrastructures are human-made structures and systems constructed using hard materials like concrete, steel, and rock designed to provide essential services like transportation, water management, and waste disposal. The pros of green infrastructure include flexibility, sustainability, and environmentally friendliness. The cons of green infrastructure include regular maintenance and the ability of major storms to have a detrimental impact. The pros of gray infrastructure are that they are generally very well planned and engineered, and they provide fairly quick results in comparison to a green infrastructure. The cons of gray infrastructure include energy consumption, a large carbon footprint, and a limited lifespan. Okay, maintenance and monitoring. Even the best designed landscapes need upkeep. Regular inspections after the storm and seasonal pruning, replacing plants when necessary will keep the shoreline strong. Monitoring helps you catch small problems before they become major ones. Adaptive management is the key. Adjusting your strategy over time is often necessary. Environmental regulations and permits. Permits are often required for shoreline work, and working with a certified professional can streamline the process. This includes both green infrastructure as well as gray infrastructure. Virtually any activity that happens on the intracoastal or on the ocean front will require some level of approval from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the St. Johns River Water Management District, your local county, or your local city. This can even include the trimming of vegetation or installing new vegetation to assist with erosion. I strongly urge you, before you do any project on the intracoastal or on the ocean, reach out to the local agencies to find out what may or may not be necessary, because if you do work in those areas unauthorized, the fines are generally very steep. And it's not something that you really want to have to deal with. So where do you begin? The very first step is assessment. You want to look at your property, the slopes, the conditions, and the water flow. You want to reach out to experts in ecological landscaping or shoreline restoration. You want to establish what the end goal may be. You also want to determine your timeline, understanding that when you're building your timeline, the approval process for gray infrastructure projects can be 2 to 3 years in some cases if you're trying to install a seawall. The process is quite a bit faster with green infrastructure projects, but don't just assume that it's going to be rubber stamped overnight. We've had projects that we've worked on that have taken in excess of 6 months to get approved. And that's sometimes just as simple as installing a dune fence or installing native vegetation on an existing dune. So be aware that the timeline should factor in getting approval for this. And then finally, you want to make sure that you always consult with professionals. Begin with small projects that make a big impact. The goal is progress, not perfection. Thank you all very much for being here today. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay. We went through that quick. I love it. Anyone have any questions for George while we have him with us? Anybody? Okay, what I will do is I will go ahead and grab his information and I will throw it into the chat so that you have an opportunity to get with George and his team at TerraScape so that you can set up a consultation with him directly. Go ahead and cut and paste it from the chat that I'm sending to everyone now. Lindsay, anything to ask George or George, anything to add?
Nope.
Oh, sorry, I
Lindsay?
couldn't get unmuted. I think that was really great. I definitely think, as we approach hurricane season, just so important for everyone to think about their properties and how they handled the storms the last few years, and to make sure that there's anything that you've let go, that you address any issues with shorelines ASAP.
Absolutely.
Okay, George, thank you.
My pleasure.
We so
Thank you all for being
appreciate
here.
you, and we will see you soon.
Thank you all
Okay,
very much.
everybody, we will go ahead and take a break until 1:45, where we will have AK Certified Roofing as our next presenter. George, thanks so much.
Thank you, Diane.